I think that in the 1960s there was an era of glamour and chicness in Miami. Frank Sinatra, and people went out to hotels for social events, etc. And that kind of lost that kind of graceful, glamour, chic element of Miami. And I think that our idea was to to bring that back into the interior, to kind of make something that's a place to come to as a social event, to make it kind of a social center.
Everybody wants to live in a hotel and have access to all the wonderful amenities, and this is certainly what you're going to get here at St. Regis Residences. But there's that commercial element of hotels that we don't want creeping into the residence, and that's something that we try to differentiate. So you want to say, yes, I live in this wonderful hotel, and yet you don't want that, I guess, that an overbearing brand marquee invading your environment. This is far more beyond that. I don't know if you want to talk more about that.
I think that we think that it is St. Regis branded residence, St. Regis Hotel, and they're like brother and sister. They're not twins. They're not twins. So you don't want them the same. You want your own unique experience going to the hotel and your own unique experience going into your residence. But they should be somewhat different but related. And I think that's a strong concept that holds them both together. But as a residence, it gives you your own kind of personal view that's separate from the hotel. So when you want to go to the hotel, you have a slightly different experience, but you're still at the same quality, same chicness as St. Regis.
I think we did a lot of custom materials and architectural materials such as the bronze screens. We did, I guess, interior design custom items such as woven carpets that are very unique to the project. We did some little bit of homework on bringing back blonde wood to create that lightness, that sort of subtropical feel. But we use a different wood, a European wood called anagri, rather than typical oak or bleached pine. So I think a lot of the materials are very fresh, very unique. There's a lot of highs and low contrast. I mentioned the bronze, the old bronze, which is a dark, dramatic element, contrasting with the anagri wood paneling around, which is very, very light. So even though it has that subtropical, tropical feel, it's grounded with something like something earthbound material like bronze.
I think the hotel, we took a slightly different approach than one typically does in a big five-star hotel, which is normally you see there's big grand rooms, and our approach was slightly different, was to say let's look at a grand home, and let's make a central core or central walkway that you divide off into rooms. So there's a series of rooms, and so there is a kind of promenade that you walk through, and you understand where the dining room is at one end, the bar is another end, there's another salon at another point and stuff, so that it's really more intimate in its approach, which I think gives it a greater sense of quality and luxury to it. Our inspiration for the grand hallway, I think there's two things. One is this notion of creating a hotel as a large residence, and in a great residence you always have this grand hallway that you walk down into a series of rooms, and that was kind of the first motivation.
Classic central plan.
Yeah, classic central plan, and it's a mirrored hallway, so there's reflection and you get this sense of glamour to it. The second motivation was looking at the way people live and socialize in Miami. And Miami is about going out at night and getting dressed and showing yourself off and enjoying yourself and having fun. And that kind of glamour has kind of been lost in a lot of North America, but people still dress up here, which is, I think, quite wonderful. And they want to see and be seen and watch. And I think that was a response to the way people live in Miami, and then bring it up a notch because we're in Bal Harbour.
And a sense of pride when they invite their friends to come to, this is where I live. I think it's a wonderful thing.
And this is where I play.
So you've arrived.
George, you just mentioned the word graciousness, and I think that's a good adjective to describe the public spaces and the amenity spaces for the residential portion of the project, in that we have had the luxury of having high ceiling spaces, and we've accentuated the height through things like our screens and veils and the paneling in the spaces. And you know, what's very important for us and what's intrinsic to the project is the quality of detailing in the amenity spaces, and the attention to detail is really important. You don't really find a lot of that down here in South Miami, but I think that when you're building a quality project and you're building a project for longevity, so as this one is, that's very important, that you don't necessarily notice that at the beginning, but over time you recognize that because you're living in these spaces. And I think that to us that's extremely important, that we execute well and that we've detailed things in a much refined way, whether it's a piece of furniture in the lobby or whether it's the wall paneling or some of the screens that are in the spaces. It's important not to, as designers, to really design and not just specify products, so that our interiors have a life of their own and they're unique and they have their own voice. And we're doing the same thing in the interiors for this project.
I think the modern aspect is a word that shouldn't be ignored in this. Although, you know, when you think about wall paneling, you always think of something a little bit retro. But we're looking at it in a different way. In other words, if you look at the anagri wood panels here, they are inlaid with silver-colored metal rather than just putting a molding around the wood. It's just much fresher, much more modern, and yet still timeless.
We're trying to balance this notion of St. Regis as a very formal name and a very formal sounding brand, and it comes from the root of the St. Regis on Fifth Avenue, which is very formal, to living on the beach as maybe a second or third home, or being on the beach and being informal and being relaxed, but having that sense of luxury to it that's still informal. And that's what we try to achieve in the interiors of both the residences and the hotel.
What I love about being down here is the choices that you get. There's so many choices in terms of dining and shopping, and culture now is coming on really strong, and you know, Art Basel becomes stronger and stronger and bigger every year. And I also like that little bit of the Latin culture intermingling, and it's a nice blend. And generally, it's just we've had a great time over how many years down here. We understand the market, we like where it's going. I think there's a nice level of growth, sense of quality now, especially with St. Regis. It only gets better.
I think it's also, you know, if you look at Miami, it's about quality of life. It's of course the sun is here, but as George mentioned, you can go do almost anything you want here in a very relaxed, easy way. It can be, you can have special experiences in special restaurants or clubs or cultural events, or you can just relax on the beach, and there's lots of choices. And I think quality of life, you can beat it.
It's close to New York. There's no time zone changes. Perfect.